In version 8, we are adding support for dynamic imports in your route config. My name is Stephen Fluin, and today on Demos with Angular, we're going to take a look at the new route config syntax, the ways that it benefits you, and the ways that we're aligning with the ecosystem. Historically, when you configured the Angular router for lazy loading, you would use a string. But now we can take advantage of industry standards and ecosystem best practices to dynamically load using tools that things like Webpack already understand. Let's take a look. To take a look at the route config changes, let's actually take a look at an existing Angular application that is running on version 7 here. So if we jump into VS Code, we can see that we have a root app module where we have a couple routes configured. So I've got a path here, loading a hello component, and I've got a lazy loaded path here. So /about is going to lazily load this about module. So this is existing syntax. This is how you would lazy load a module today. And if we look at the child module, just to understand, so this is an ng module called about module, and we're configuring the router as a for child here and referring to a component. So with this, the Angular knows how to split out the about module into a separate chunk, as well as how to lazy load it at runtime when the user navigates to /about. So if we do an ng build -- prod, what we'll actually see is that we will get out a chunk for the about module and we'll get out a chunk for our main module. So next what I want to do is I actually want to run an update on this application to bring it up to version 8. So I'm going to run ng update at angular/core at angular/cli -- -next. And so this will update us to the latest RC of version 8. This is the same flag that you'll need to run when you want to move to version 8 on your own, just maybe without the -- which brings you to the latest beta. And so it's going to automatically migrate my application. So if we watch the config here, we've now switched from load children referring to a string up to referring to an import here. So if we wanted to look at these changes side by side, we can actually kind of copy and paste this. And let's create another path. Let's call it about to, and let's show the old syntax. So what you used to do here is load children, and then you'd say about.module, pound about module. And what you'll note is that the new syntax is a little bit more verbose, but it's actually using an import command that JavaScript knows how to interpret. VS Code actually knows what that means and what the types are of that. And so in the old way, if you had, for example, about modules, because this was just a string and because all of the tooling was custom, Angular wouldn't know that that was wrong until we tried building it and splitting out that module. Whereas now, because we're relying on kind of ecosystem standard code, if that file can't be resolved, we're going to get a runtime or a build time error. And the same thing is true with the module name, right? If we couldn't resolve this module name, we wouldn't know that until much, much later. Whereas because TypeScript and VS Code and WebStorm and all the IDEs know about this, we actually make sure that we do all of this right, which is going to make everything much more reliable. It allows us to get rid of this custom build tooling that we had for that string and just rely on ecosystem standards using this standard dynamic import. So let's break this load children command down just a little bit if you want to understand a little bit more about what's going on. So previously we had a string that was being resolved at build time by custom Angular tooling. But now instead of that, you're going to be passing in a function. So we have an empty parameter here with a arrow function. So this is a function. So the router knows that when the user tries to access the about route, then we execute this function to determine what module to load. And so then this import command is a asynchronous load of some other JavaScript, and so Webpack under the hood of the CLI knows how to lazily resolve this and load the appropriate chunk over the network. And then as soon as we get that chunk back, we return the module that exists in it. So all of that is pretty simple, and it moves the Angular ecosystem away from custom tooling into ecosystem standards. We've just taken a look at the new syntax for lazy loading modules using the Angular router. If you use ng update, all of this will happen automatically for you, and you'll just want to use this new best practice going forward. Thank you so much, and stay tuned for other 8.0 videos.